Have you ever walked into a room with a clear purpose in mind, only to stop dead in your tracks wondering what on earth you came there to do? Or experience that frustrating moment where you cross a doorway and your mental mission simply vanishes, as if someone hit the delete button on your brain? What if I told you that doorways aren't just physical barriers between spaces, they're actually triggering one of the most profound mechanisms in human consciousness, demonstrating Emmy Noether's conservation principles applied to the architecture of memory itself? Today, I'm going to reveal why every doorway you cross creates a fundamental shift in your brain's information processing system, following conservation laws that treat spatial boundaries as natural reset points for mental energy states. This phenomenon is so universal that psychologists have given it an official name, the doorway effect. Research shows that people are significantly more likely to forget their intentions when moving between rooms compared to covering the same distance within a single space. You could walk 50 feet within a room and remember your purpose perfectly, but take 3 steps through a doorway and your mind goes blank. It's not about distance, time, or distraction. It's about the fundamental way your brain organizes and manages information based on spatial context and environmental boundaries. To understand why doorways act as memory erasers, we need to explore how your brain creates what neuroscientists call event boundaries, invisible mental markers that divide the continuous stream of experience into discrete episodes. Emmy Noether's insights about symmetry breaking help explain this process. When you cross a threshold from one space to another, you're breaking the spatial symmetry that your brain uses to organize contextual information. This symmetry break triggers a conservation mechanism that reallocates mental resources, often at the cost of maintaining previous intentions. Your brain doesn't simply record experiences like a video camera. It organizes information into contextual packages associated with specific environments, activities, and mental states. When you form an intention in one room, that intention becomes bound to the spatial and contextual cues of that environment. Your brain assumes that the purpose you had in the kitchen is relevant to kitchen-related activities and contexts. When you leave that space, your brain's information management system treats the intention as potentially obsolete, conserving mental resources by reducing its priority in active memory. The physics of attention and working memory follow conservation principles that Emmy Noether would recognize immediately. Your brain has limited computational resources, a finite amount of attention energy that must be distributed across competing demands. When you cross a doorway, your brain automatically shifts resources toward processing the new environment, scanning for relevant objects, assessing spatial layout, updating contextual expectations, and preparing for different types of activities. This resource reallocation can cause previous intentions to fade from active memory, not because they're forgotten, but because they're no longer receiving sufficient mental energy to remain prominent. The architecture of human memory reveals why spatial boundaries create such powerful effects on information retention. Your hippocampus, the brain region responsible for forming and retrieving memories, is fundamentally organized around spatial navigation and environmental context. The same neural networks that help you navigate physical spaces also organize your memories, thoughts, and intentions. When you change physical contexts, you're literally changing the neural context that was supporting your previous mental state. Neuroscience research has revealed that crossing doorways trigger measurable changes in brain activity patterns. The default mode network, a collection of brain regions active during rest and introspection, shows different activation patterns when people move between spaces compared to staying within the same environment. These neural shifts represent energy conservation mechanisms that optimize brain function for new environmental demands while potentially disrupting ongoing mental processes like intention maintenance. The timing of doorway-induced forgetting follows predictable patterns that suggest underlying conservation mechanisms. The effect is strongest immediately after crossing the threshold, gradually weakening as you spend more time in the new space. This timing pattern indicates that your brain's resource reallocation is temporary. Once the new environment is processed and integrated, mental resources can be redirected back toward recovering previous intentions. But during that critical transition period, your original purpose can become temporarily inaccessible. Working memory capacity plays a crucial role in determining who experiences doorway effects strongest. People with higher working memory capacity, those who can juggle more mental tasks simultaneously, are less susceptible to doorway-induced forgetting because they have sufficient mental resources to maintain intentions while processing new environmental information. Individuals with lower working memory capacity are more likely to experience complete intention loss because environmental processing consumes all available mental resources. The evolutionary aspects of the doorway effect reveal why this seemingly frustrating mental glitch actually serves important survival functions. In ancestral environments, moving between different spaces often signaled significant changes in context, threats, opportunities, and behavioral requirements. A brain that automatically updated its mental state when entering new environments would be better adapted to respond appropriately to changing circumstances. The cost of forgetting previous intentions was outweighed by the benefit of mental flexibility and environmental responsiveness. Age significantly affects the magnitude of doorway-induced forgetting, following patterns that reflect changes in brain function and mental resource management. Older adults typically experience stronger doorway effects than younger individuals, possibly due to reduced working memory capacity and increased difficulty maintaining multiple mental goals simultaneously. Young children also show pronounced doorway effects, but for different reasons related to still developing executive control systems and intention maintenance abilities. The emotional content of forgotten intentions influences how strongly the doorway effect impacts memory. Highly emotional or personally significant goals are more likely to survive doorway transitions because they receive greater neural resource allocation and create stronger memory traces. Routine or mundane intentions, like fetching something from another room, are most vulnerable to doorway-induced forgetting because they don't trigger the enhanced memory processes associated with emotional significance. Physical fatigue and cognitive load amplify the doorway effect, demonstrating how energy conservation principles govern the phenomenon. When you're mentally exhausted or overwhelmed, your brain has fewer resources available for maintaining intentions during environmental transitions. The doorway effect becomes more pronounced when cognitive demands are high, revealing how mental energy conservation prioritizes immediate environmental processing over maintaining previous mental goals. The social aspects of doorway-induced forgetting create interesting dynamics in shared living and working spaces. Family members often experience collective doorway effects, where someone asks what they were supposed to get from another room, triggering similar memory lapses in others. These social contagion effects suggest that the doorway phenomenon involves shared environmental and contextual cues that can influence multiple people simultaneously. Modern architecture and interior design inadvertently exploit doorway effect principles in ways that can enhance or disrupt cognitive function. Open floor plans reduce doorway effects by minimizing spatial boundaries and maintaining visual continuity between areas. Traditional room-based layouts create more opportunities for doorway-induced forgetting, but may enhance privacy and focused attention within individual spaces. Understanding these trade-offs can inform design decisions that optimize cognitive performance for specific activities and goals. Technology offers potential solutions for mitigating doorway-induced forgetting through external memory aids and reminder systems. Smartphone apps that use location tracking to provide contextual reminders can compensate for natural doorway effects by triggering memory cues when you enter specific rooms. Voice assistants can serve as external intention storage systems, allowing you to verbally record goals before moving between spaces and retrieve them afterward. The therapeutic applications of understanding doorway effects are beginning to emerge in clinical settings. Occupational therapists working with patients who have memory difficulties can design living spaces that minimize disruptive spatial boundaries while maximizing environmental cues that support intention maintenance. Architects designing facilities for elderly individuals or those with cognitive impairments can incorporate doorway effect research into layouts that optimize memory support and wayfinding assistance. Cultural variations in spatial organization and architectural traditions create different patterns of doorway-induced forgetting across populations. Cultures with more compartmentalized living spaces may experience stronger doorway effects, while societies that favor open, flowing spatial designs may show reduced susceptibility to threshold-based memory disruption. These cultural differences reveal how environmental design interacts with universal cognitive mechanisms. The workplace implications of doorway effects extend to office productivity, meeting effectiveness, and task management efficiency. Employees who frequently move between different work areas may experience more intention-related forgetting than those who remain in consistent workspaces. Meeting rooms that require crossing multiple thresholds to reach may inadvertently contribute to participants forgetting agenda items or discussion points they intended to raise. Virtual reality and digital environments are providing new ways to study doorway effects under controlled conditions. Researchers can manipulate virtual spatial boundaries, doorway characteristics, and environmental transitions to isolate the specific factors that trigger memory disruption. These studies reveal that even simulated spatial boundaries can create doorway effects, suggesting that the phenomenon depends more on perceived environmental change than physical movement. The relationship between attention and environmental processing reveals deeper principles about how consciousness organizes itself in space. Your sense of self and personal continuity is intimately connected to spatial context and environmental consistency. Doorways represent discontinuities in this spatial narrative, creating opportunities for mental state changes that can disrupt ongoing cognitive processes while enabling adaptive responses to new situations. The next time you walk into a room and completely forget why you came there, remember that you're experiencing one of neuroscience's most fascinating demonstrations of how your brain conserves mental energy through spatial context management. The doorway didn't erase your memory, it triggered Emmy Noether's conservation principles applied to consciousness itself, showing how your brain treats spatial boundaries as natural reset points for optimizing cognitive resources. The frustrating blank moment isn't a glitch. It's evidence of sophisticated neural mechanisms that prioritize environmental awareness and mental flexibility over rigid intention maintenance. This temporary memory lapse reveals the profound ways that physical space shapes mental experience, demonstrating that consciousness isn't separate from environment, but intimately connected to the spatial contexts that organize our thoughts, memories, and purposes. understanding the doorway effect helps us appreciate how the architecture of our minds mirrors the architecture of our spaces, creating invisible boundaries that structure both our physical movement and our mental journeys through the complex landscape of human experience. If you're fascinated by discovering how your environment secretly shapes your consciousness and cognitive function, subscribe to explore more hidden connections between space, mind, and the physics principles that govern both. We're uncovering the invisible mechanisms that control your mental experience in ways you never imagined, revealing how Emmy Noether's insights about conservation and symmetry extend from the cosmos to the most intimate workings of human consciousness. Each video reveals another layer of the physics operating in your mind, transforming everyday mental experiences into profound insights about how consciousness itself follows the fundamental laws that govern all complex systems. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of curious minds discovering the hidden physics of human experience. We're exploring the secret science of consciousness, memory, and cognition that most people never notice, showing how the same principles that control stars and atoms also govern the thoughts in your head. The next mental mystery is waiting to be decoded. Don't miss out on understanding the fascinating physics that makes you, you.